Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Well, I love your backdrop better than I do mine.
This is I'm living at my mom's house right now, and this is her beautiful backyard that she has worked so hard on. So I will tell her that because
Oh my gosh, with the sun shining and everything, I love it.
finally, too. I mean, it's been gloomy. I don't know about you guys over there on the other side of the mountains, but it's not been nice here.
Well, same here. I think this week we're supposed to get some pretty warm weather, but it's been gloomy and windy. I don't think you guys get the wind over there, but
Not quite,
yeah.
but I do. I get the gloom. We get all the gloom. Rain. It's been like, where's June? I know everyone jokes that June in Washington is like not quite summer yet. We have to wait till July, but I'm really ready for it, if I'm
Oh
honest.
yeah. Well, you know what's so crazy? So we get over to the west side at least 4 times a year because we do some tastings over on the normally do tastings over on the west side, and then they're for other events. And if you believe this or not, but most of the time we're there, it is gorgeous. So my husband is from Eastern Washington. And when we travel to the west side, I'll always go, oh my God, this is so amazing. We should move here. He goes, honey, that is not how it is. Most of the time, I'm just like, this could fool me because most of the time we come over here, it's amazing and sun's shining.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, and I get fooled every time. Every summer comes around, and we have a beautiful fall, and everything's great. And then you get between like November and now, and you're like, oh, this is why this is Seattle. This is where we live.
Yeah.
That's okay. You know what? I love it.
Well,
Uh,
that's how you get that beautiful plush green behind you. So it's all good.
yes, the whole place is green. I swear. Actually, I'm also allergic to all of it, so
Oh, no.
it's fine. It's just what allergy medicine is for.
Yeah. And
Uh,
what wine's for. So
well, I do have some of that right here too. Why don't we first just start with who you are, and a little bit about your winery.
I'm Shae Frichette, and I'm a Southerner. I'm from South Carolina. And I say that because there are some things that I'll say that you'll go, she's probably from the South, just with my Southern accent. So that'd be fun to just kind of pick those things out. Born and raised there. And after college, I moved to Southern California where I met my husband, Greg. And after dating and being married, we decided to start a family and just said, if we're going to have a kid, we should move closer to our parents. And I thought that meant we were going to move closer. We were going to move to South Carolina, where I'm from. And he was thinking we moved to Washington State, where he's from. So you can imagine we just got into a huge argument. And after arguing for a while, Greg just says, you know what? Let's just leave it to fate. Let's flip a coin. If it lands on heads, we move to move to Washington. If it lands on tails, we move to South Carolina. So, I mean, after a couple glasses of wine, that sounded like a great idea. Leave your life up to coin toss. But we did it, and the coin landed on heads, which was Washington. So of course I said best out of 5, and he didn't agree to that. And I checked to see if it was a 2-headed coin, and it wasn't. So we left our jobs, packed our bags, and moved here with our 7-month-old son, and really wanted to do something that would give us goosebumps. And we love wine, so we thought, why not learn how to make wine? And that's really how the journey started for us. We really wanted to be on Red Mountain, and there was nothing for sale. So we literally went knocking on doors, begging people to sell to us. And after 4 no's, the folks who own the property we have finally said yes.
That's
So
amazing. That's some resilience right there. You take 4 no's, and you're like, we want to be on Red Mountain.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's some amazing wineries up here, and so after knocking on doors, we try and our quitting time was like 4:15ish, and that way we get to go to a winery and just kind of enjoy a glass of wine, and lick our wounds from all the doors that were closed in our faces and all the no's we heard from the day.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a good way to get over a few no's. Nothing like a
Right.
good wine. Okay, so you got your land, which is amazing. And how did you go from, okay, we have the land, to I know how to make wine? Did you go to
Right.
school? Did you apprentice somewhere, or did you just start look on YouTube? I'm sure there are people who do that too.
Well, kind of both. So Greg went through my husband Greg went through the 2-year enology certificate program through WSU, because he went to WSU for his undergrad. And we also worked with Charlie Hoppus, who owns Fidelitas. So he took us under his wing and allowed us to come into his production facility and really get our hands dirty and understand how wine's made, and helped us really determine our style. So I actually did not go to school for making wine. I went to, I guess you call it the School of Hard Knocks. And so with working with Greg, it's just, you kind of, you just get it. There's nothing like learning when you're just in it and you're working in it. And so that's how I learned to make wine. And then I love picking the brains of other winemakers. And in our community, winemakers are so open, like they don't have secrets. And so I'll pop over to a winemaker cellar, ask them questions if there's something that I want to learn or know how to make better. And they've always been very open to sharing knowledge.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think from people I've talked to in the wine world, I just spoke with Time and Direction owner. He's just starting up in Walla Walla, and he was saying the best way you can learn how to make wine is start making it under someone else who knows how to make wine. So
yep.
Seems to be a common theme.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you learned under some amazing people, and then now you have 2 brands of wine. You don't just have Frichette, you also have Sashay.
Yeah.
So I want to know a lot about both of these, but how did you decide to make 2 different lines of wine, not just one?
So Frichette is like very focused. We decided when we started Frichette that we were going to learn how to make like a little bit of wine really, really, really good versus trying to make a ton of different varietals that you just in a lot of ways treat in different ways. And so we decided we would focus on Bordeaux varietals, which lended us 6 red varietals, and then we worked with varietals. And so that was just kind of what we were going to do. And then I love Bordeaux varietals, and I love Red Mountain. And I went to this event called Celebration of Black Women in Wine. It was in Miami, and I just happened to be invited there as a guest. And I didn't hesitate on booking a ticket to go over to this event. And at this event, there were like other women who looked like me, and they were women who were making wine, and they were women who own wine companies. And I was so inspired because I had never seen other Black female winemakers or Black females that had owned wineries, and they had existed in the US and outside of the US. I just had never seen that. And I was so inspired that when I got onto the plane to leave Miami back to the Tri-Cities, there wasn't a second I was on that plane that I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to do and what wine would really express me, and just kind of what I wanted and what message I wanted to share. And when the wheels hit Pasco, Sashay had already been dreamt up and born. And so I came back to my husband and I was like, oh my gosh, I have this plan and I need your help. I have this brand I want to launch. It'll be an expression of me, and I need your help with barrel contracts and sourcing of fruit. And he was just like, awesome. And so from that moment, I became his boss with Sashay, because with Frichette, he's the head winemaker for that brand. And so he would provide the work orders, and I would just go in and kind of see what he wanted to do from, how our wines would be moved and touched. And I went in and did the work. And so we kind of swapped roles, which was a lot of fun. So he's a great person to have on my team.
Okay, so then you had this amazing productive plane trip. It's like the most productive plane trip. I've never been that productive on a plane ride. And I don't know, I'm gonna hold this up because I think everyone needs to see this beautiful label. Did you design this, or did you work with someone else to get it designed?
The story of that label is just, it came together so beautifully well. So I had in my head what I wanted Sashay to look like. Before I even, like I said, when those wheels landed in Pasco, there was a lot about the Sashay label that I knew. And I knew what I wanted her to look like. I knew what I wanted people to feel when they saw her. I knew what, most of what I want that message on the back to read. But I didn't quite know how to go about doing it. And there was this young artist in the Tri-Cities who happened to be in my tasting room. And he said, hey, my next the next thing for me, because he does these beautiful pieces of art, he goes, well, the next thing for me, I'd love to have my work on a label. And at that time, we had only had Frichette. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, maybe I can, connect you with someone. But for our Frichettes, this is like, we're not changing anything for this label. And I went, wait a minute. I have Sashay coming. And I was thinking more graphic designer, but let's chat. And if you can paint what's in my head, you've got the job. And so we had coffee. We had a 2.5-hour coffee meeting. And I just painted this picture the best I could of what I want this to look like. And I mean, he came back with what you see on that Sashay Rosé, no changes to it. He took every bit of, the expression that I provided, and he put that on a canvas, and I absolutely loved it and still do.
Yeah, it's super eye-catchy, not only just the design and the painting, but how the gold also from the Shae is also in her outfit and her shoes. Like, honestly, it's so pretty. It's super catchy, and I think it's also just really, really beautiful.
He hit the nail right on the head. His name is Chance Watt. He's a young artist here in the Tri-Cities, and I just think, and this is just like a sample of his work. So I hired him to also paint for the Sashay Red label. And I just think he also did a fantastic job with that. So I hope I get to work with him again on something else.
Yeah, honestly, stunning. But that's not the only amazing part of this bottle. I love the back. And I was reading this on Saturday, this little note on the back, and I'm just going to read it because I think it's really powerful.
Well, how about I read it to you? Because these words are for you, all right?
Yes.
You ready?
I am ready.
You are strong, you are courageous, you are fierce. You have the ability to create positive change in this world. So lift your chin, push your shoulders back, and sashay, girl, sashay.
Yes. I'm so glad you did that because I would not have done that well. That's amazing. So how did you come up with that? I think it's super powerful. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever read on the back of a label.
Oh, thank you. I knew that I wanted some sort of a powerful message that was true for women. That's what I wanted, but I didn't quite know how to articulate it. And so my graphic designer that I worked with to just kind of make the back of the label, he called me up and he said, I need to know what you want on the back of your label. And I said, great, how much time do I have? He said, I need it now. And so while he was on the phone with me, I said, look, I'm just going to type from my heart and I'm going to send you something. And I just started typing and that's what came out.
Gosh, you're like, just, you know what you want and you're going to write for it. It's honestly amazing. Well, I do have it in the glass and I know not everyone is tasting this, but I know it is for sale on her site, so everyone can go order it. This was $25, right?
30.
30. This one's 30. Yeah. Totally worth it. And from Red Mountain. And do you just want to do a few quick notes about the rosé for anyone who might be interested?
I was looking at your glass. I was just like, gosh, that looks so delicious. Like I want to be having that right now, like in your setting.
I could tell them what I think about it, but I would rather have what was your, what was the process?
I use Merlot. So the varietal of choice for me for this particular wine is 100% Merlot. Is from Red Mountain, and this wine is red fruit driven all the way. So to me, like on the nose, it smells like almost like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. But then I get strawberry and rhubarb, a little bit of citric, not a whole lot of citrus. It just that doesn't really jump out at me. Like sometimes you get that in rosés. There is some weight on it. I would say this is almost a medium body rosé. It's not as light and crisp as some rosés you may get. I do sit this in a little bit of neutral oak for a few months before I bottle it. I love this wine super chilled. I mean, I will put this in the refrigerator for a good 30 minutes before I open it up. And then I also just sit it in a tub of ice so that it's pretty chilled when I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I did just take this out of the fridge. So it is very chilled and it is really, it's like a nice 245. early early afternoon drink.
Yes.
No, I really love this rosé. You're right; it's something heavier. I've been drinking a lot of on the lighter side, but I think it also still is just very. You don't. I wouldn't need to pair it with food. Sometimes heavier rosés, I'm like, I need something else to go with it. But I could easily sip this in the sun. And I don't actually I haven't tried a lot of rosés of Merlot. How did you decide to do a Merlot grape versus some of the other more popular grapes?
Well, I wanted to work with some of the growers that I already have relationships with, and I worked with a grower. We were already buying Merlot from them for our red, and I had never made a rosé before, and I thought about Sangiovese, but I had never worked with that varietal before, and so I think for this one, I wanted to almost play it safe with a varietal that I was a little more familiar with, and then also work with a grower that I'd worked with before, and so they had that where I source it from, they do a lot of the Bordeaux varietals, and they also have some Rhone varietals. And I just thought Merlot would be a varietal that's pretty fun to work with.
So this is amazing. This is delicious.
Thank you. Well, your point with food, that's the thing about this being a little heavier, since we do focus on reds for our Frichette portfolio, we only make one white wine for that portfolio, which is our Simeon from Red Mountain here. I also thought about that, making a wine that on the mouth would also be a wine that I thought that some of our red wine lovers might enjoy. This one it's a little sweeter than off dry, and which is very interesting because this ferments in our cold room. Fermentation is really slow on it, and I was like, oh, if I don't check it for 3 days, it'll totally be fine. And I went in to check the sugar level, and it had moved so fast. And so, that's the thing. Just when you think you're comfortable and your wines, they can just do some things where you're just like, whoa.
I can't even begin to imagine all the things you might have to worry about when it comes to winemaking. So no matter what you did, though, it's delicious. This is how many vintages of rosé have you made so far?
This is the third. So the first one just went with the blanket. I only made, I think I made like 30 cases of the first vintage. And I mean, it went so fast, it doesn't even count. And last year, the rosé we released was sold out in a little over 2 months. So it was around a little bit longer than the first. And this one, we're almost halfway sold out and just released it.
Did you hear that? If you want this rosé, you got to buy it now. Okay, so that is honestly, I could drink this all afternoon. So let's talk about what wine. Okay, so you just released this, but what wine are you most excited about right now in your current lineup, whether it's on the Sashay side or if it's on the Frichette side?
There's a few from both lines that I'm excited about. I'm excited about our Zinfandel for Frichette because Zin is not a varietal that's very common, and there's a little vineyard here that has a few rows of Zinfandel that we just kind of wanted to try out, and it turned out amazing. And so I'm stoked. The thing about Zin is that it's just not an easy varietal to grow. We tried to source it last in 2019, and it just wouldn't ripen, and so we just kind of had to let it go. And so it's just kind of one of those jewels that like sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. And I'm very pleased at how it turned out. A lot of dried fruit characteristics, which I'm excited about. And I'm also excited, we were releasing a Carmenere. First time we're releasing Carmenere, so I'm super excited about that. I think Carmeneres are gaining a lot more popularity, and they really, really stand out when they're next to other wines. We had our Carmenere last night with some chicken tacos that we got from like this really cool taco truck in Pasco. So, I mean, it was an amazing pairing. I really enjoyed that. And then from the Sashay, I'm so excited about the Sashay Syrah. I did not plan on releasing that until later on this summer or the fall. And I happened to be on an Instagram live, just kind of trying it and going through the tasting. I was like, okay, this we're releasing right now. So, so we put that up on the site. I'm stoked about it. It's the first Syrah that I've ever made. And so I think I'm excited about it because it turned out really well. But I was very nervous about making it because sometimes I hear horror stories about making Syrah, and kind of it can be a little bit fussy in production. And so I was just very nervous about it and watched it really closely, babied it, did punch downs instead of twice a day, punch down 3 times a day on it, just to kind of give it some oxygen and kind of help it move along. And so it was in a lot of ways kind of my baby. And it's like kind of my baby is, has graduated. It's in the bottle, and I'm just stoked. I'm so excited about that.
So what would be any kind of big goals you have for the next, I don't know, you can do 6 months, 2 years, 5 years?
My big goal is to open. To reopen, I should say. We just got news that I just saw from our local paper that our application has been placed on hold, which means that we are not permitted to reopen just yet. And so it was just kind of some disappointing news for us. So I'm very much looking forward to reopening, because we've been doing some exciting work to our tasting room and to our property, getting permitted to have our guests enjoy wine in green spaces that were not open before. And I'm very excited about that. In fact, this morning I was out doing landscaping and yard work, and which I love that sort of stuff anyways. So I'm very excited about reopening and having guests explore our new space. When it comes to wine, I was just talking to Greg this morning, and we're finalizing what the 2020 vintage will be, where we're going to get wine grapes from, what tonnage we're going to bring in. We're bringing in the first fruit from our little estate vineyard here this year. And so we're excited about that, because this is year 3, and this is the first time we're going to be picking grapes from that vineyard. And so that's really exciting. And I was getting goosebumps just talking to him, because I was excited. And I will share with your guests like something that is a goal of mine that I don't think I've ever shared publicly. You ready for this?
Yes.
I want to make a sparkling wine. How fun would that be? A sparkling rosé?
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do. Please do it. I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into it than other than you're just saying like, I'm going to make a sparkling rosé. But I love bubbles of all kinds. So
yes. So that's one of the things that's a goal. I'd love to make a sparkling wine.
Would you put that under the Sashay label?
Yes, yeah. So it will be, yeah. So I really enjoy having the Sashay rosé, and I would also like to have a Sashay sparkling rosé. And so that rosé we'll still have that, but then the sparkling rosé. I just think it'd be so much fun. I think I would have fun making it. Yeah. And I think I'd enjoy it, because I enjoy bubbles.
Isn't half of the reason you go into wine to drink your own wine?
Right. Well, that's supposed to be the secret there.
One day when I decide to leave corporate world and go make my own wine, I'm just going to make whatever I want to drink. So obviously not yet. Have there been any other major challenges over the past couple months because this whole like COVID and everything's been closed? Are you guys just trying to, I know I saw you had Shae Saturday. Mm-hmm. So yep. Trying to do some other kind of like unique marketing tactics.
Yeah. We're very blessed in that we still have means of getting our wines to folks. You could still order on our website, and we can ship wine throughout the state of Washington and Pacific Northwest and a couple of East Coast states. At least until it gets too warm, because we actually don't ship during the summer. And so that's been really neat to still have that opportunity to ship wines. And then we've been hosting some virtual tastings and something we call our mystery wine challenge, which is really fun. You just buy a bottle of wine, the label's covered, and we get on a Zoom call and we just kind of take you through the blind tasting experience. And then we all reveal the wine at the end, what's the wine you have. And so that's been a lot of fun. But, the biggest challenge has been to, the word pivot has been used a lot during COVID-19. And I would have to say that's been one of the biggest challenges, is really looking at how do we still do what we do and get our wine to guests and still stay afloat. We really are a small business. And Greg and I started this from scratch. There was no, we didn't come into wine. We left our corporate jobs and we did this with a young family. I think that you see that around our state where you have small businesses. And so for us to really look at, how do we still provide our wines and still stay in business. And the thing about wine too is that there's a long runway. So even with COVID-19, let's say that our revenue is down. Now I have to think about the investment that I'm going to make for the 2020 vintage, which won't be sold for 2 years. And so that's where we are. And it's exciting to just kind of think about what we're going to do. But at the same time, when it comes to, where's the money that you put into buying all this fruit in these barrels and, the production part of it for a product that's going to sit for 2 years and we don't know when we're going to open. So I think that's been, the pivoting and really trying to plan 2 years ahead has been a huge challenge. And just trying to figure out what it is you're going to do. The other side of that coin, though, is that we're really being pushed to be creative and think outside the box. I mean, I would have never thought that if we were open, that I would be doing as much of this sort of stuff. And I love it. I love being able to connect with folks that may not have ever been to my tasting room or may not have any plans to come anytime soon, but they're still hearing about Frichette and Sashay and learning a little bit more about what we do here.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you taking the time. But yeah, definitely if you were in the winery doing tastings and having all your guests, this probably wouldn't have been as easy to be like, I need some time. So I saw you have a wine club. How is it called anything specific? Is it flexible on bottle type and kind? And how do people join?
So our wine club is all red, and we have 2 clubs. One is called our Signature Crew, and it's spelled C-R-U. I'm curious to know what people think the reason is we spell it C-R-U versus C-R-E-W. So we have the Signature Crew and the Reserve Crew. Signature Crew is our most popular. It's 2 bottles of wine 4 times a year. So essentially 8 bottles of wine a year we send to you. And Greg and I pick those bottles out. And they're always fun bottles. Usually our Signature Crew, you're enjoying wine before it's released to anyone else. So like our wine called Punctual, which people love, is a club exclusive. And then our Reserve Crew is a case in the spring and a case in the fall. And Greg and I curate those wines for the Reserve Crew. That club can customize, but usually they don't want to because we pick some really great wines, including wines from our library. We'll go in and we have a very, very, very small library. So usually it's something that is enough just for that wine club.
Okay, well then I think I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do have one last question. So obviously there's a lot going around right now about supporting Black-owned businesses, and you're a Black-owned winery. And I think you are the only Black-owned winery that I found in Washington, which is, I mean, it's great, but I also think there's room for growth and expansion there. And so I'd love to get some thoughts from you on how you would feel to see this industry get more diverse, and ways we can encourage that, other than just buying your amazing wine.
Well, I think that when you have industries that are focused on diversity, because I've seen organizations where they look at their organization and they are very heavy with a gender or very heavy with a certain race, or and those companies really have the mindset that we can be a better company and better to our community if we promote diversity. And I'm a part of the Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I know that organization has been very deliberate about that. And I can see that they, go out and they search for folks that can create a diverse board. And I think the same thing I'd love to see in our wine industry. I think that the industry has gotten pretty comfortable with the way that it's always looked, and I think that with the Black Lives Matter initiative, and with a lot of folks paying a little bit more attention to that we're just kind of looking around and seeing that, wow, this is an industry that, there's only one Black female winemaker in our state. And I wonder if anyone had ever even noticed that before. So I I do hope that this is something that is, that while it's at the, that while it is at the forefront, that it's not something that's just kind of forgotten, and it's not something that's lost, and that we do have other organizations within our industry that just kind of take the opportunity to look around and say we have an opportunity. And I hope that I can inspire, you know, other Black women and Black young women that may have looked at this industry and it may have been intimidating or elite, and they see that they too can be a part of it. I mean, I was inspired at the Black Women in Wine event that I went to in Miami, but you know, I was part of that mindset too, because I had never seen a Black woman in wine. And so there's room for change. I think there's definitely space, and I would love to see more people like me owning wineries, being winemakers, leading in vineyards, having wine businesses and wine shops. I just think that'd be amazing.
Yes, I do too. Because also, not only are you one of the only Black winemakers, you're a female winemaker, and that's its own category in itself in an industry dominated mostly by male winemakers.
Right, Mills. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're really breaking the mold for multiple different groups. So cheers to you. That's
Oh, well, thank you.
I would thank you if we were together. So those are my questions. Do you have any kind of like things I didn't ask that you want to make sure my viewers know about you, or any last takeaways?
I think that, you know, and your viewers probably already know this about you, but you took this step. You reached out to me, you purchased my wine, you invited me to do this. And I think that says a great deal about you and the way that you see this industry too. And so I applaud you for doing something that we'd love to see more folks do, and to just show that this industry could be more. And so I definitely appreciate that. And I think you do a beautiful job. I am so glad that I get to be a part of your fan base and that I get to see the things that you do, and also get your recommendations too, because there's over 1,000 wineries in the state right now. And as much as I think I might know them, I mean, the reality is you're probably doing way more research on them than I am. And so, so it'd be fun to follow someone who is actively seeking these wineries and actively showcasing wines. And I look forward to continuing to be a fan of yours.
You're just gonna make me tear up. Oh, you're so sweet. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm excited, to follow along. I'm gonna open this one probably later tonight, just for everyone again. This is amazing. I got the Malbec 2017. I'm quite excited. But it's not really 3 p.m. red wine weather.
Well, I will tell you, if you are up for cooking, I have an amazing Moroccan spice lamb stew recipe that goes very well with that Malbec. I have it on our site. Okay. Feel free to pull it. It's just a blog post, and it has the ingredients on it, and it is so great with that Malbec.
All right, guys, I will link that. And it will not be from me.
I want to see you make it, though. I think you'd be great. Come on.
Yeah, I think you said so many wonderful things about my wine skills. I'm going to let you know I'm a really bad cook. Really bad. I just, it's something I'm working on. I know it's a weakness of mine. But it's an area for improvement that I will be continuously improving on. So maybe
if I can give you a secret about this Moroccan spice lamb stew, it sounds fancy and it looks amazing, but it is so easy. Ooh, okay. It really is so easy.
Well, and maybe I will try, because I need all, like, if I can be like fancy and like, look at what I did. Also, it might not be the hardest thing in the world.
Right. Nobody will know.